Hello everyone. Just a reminder, my name is Katrina Gomez. First off, I wanted to apologize that I didn't use the Kaltura recording app for some reason. Even after the tutorials and everything, it just was not working for me today. And I have to record the video today, so I use an alternative resource called Screencast-O-Matic. Again, my name is Katrina Gomez. I'm very excited to be sharing the final project, or my final project, with you guys. Again, my topic is the inconsistencies of traditional grading in the modern educational system. So my project consists of a Dear Reader letter, a multi-genre research project synopsis, which includes multiple pages, including multiple references that I found, articles, books that I read, and some more, I said peer-reviewed articles. So yeah, it includes tons of that. So then I also listen to a podcast that fits very well with my overall project, and that is called How Accurate Are Your Grades? I included a quote on fairness. I also included my results and analysis, of course, and interview highlights from 3 interviews that I did, and also my works cited or reference page. So let's get started. Dear Reader, education has always been an important foundation in my life that I have taken seriously. Throughout my educational journey, I have been quite lucky to have teachers and professors who have made me feel comfortable in the classroom and made learning a fun yet meaningful experience, especially at the University of California, Riverside, where I completed my undergraduate degree. Although I have had great educational experience, I'm aware that some students beginning as early as preschool have not had the same fortunate experiences as I have had. So this got me thinking. I may have been quite fortunate, but there must have been times that I found uncomfortable in the classroom or given unfair treatment. This thought sparked a memory that was quite unpleasant for me. In 4th grade, I experienced the loss of a family member, which led to missing a week of schoolwork. I was able to make up the work, but my teacher gave me half credit, which resulted in lowering my grade quite drastically. I had no late assignments prior to this. I felt that my teacher was being insensitive and unfair. The actions of my teacher's unfair grading made me feel bad about myself. Did I deserve to be given half credit? Did my final grade show a true representation of my knowledge in the classroom? I believe the answers to these questions is absolutely not. This experience ultimately created the foundation of my research topic, the inconsistencies of traditional grading and the modern education system. The exploration of the way inconsistencies of the traditional grading system affect students' grades in the modern classroom is important to understand because it comes with heavy burdens and the lack of efficiency on the learning process as a whole. My aim was to gather current educators in the classrooms' past unpleasant experiences and dig deep on what they consider to be unfair grading and if they think non-academic factors such as late work, homework, attendance, and behavior contributes to a student's true knowledge in the classroom. My literature review also includes different types of grading styles and tips on how to create fairer assessments. For this part, I think I'm only going to read the introduction because the review of literature, like I said, is pages long, and it includes what I believe to be like very good articles and books that I just had to include in my literature review. So I think just with the introduction alone, I think we can go ahead and skip to the next part of the project. So the introduction. Since the start of education, there has been expectations and requirements that students must meet in the classroom. These expectations and requirements include factors such as test performance, attendance, behavior, participation, and homework that later helps determine a final grade. The question here is, do these traditional grades do justice to students' knowledge? Students that have to focus on grades tend to lose interest in whatever they're learning, and grades create a preference for the easiest task possible and also tend to reduce the quality of students' thinking. Students lose interest because to them, learning is solely for the grade. They select the easiest task possible to avoid the risk of not doing well, while only trying to learn what they need to know to obtain a good grade. The grade is then the measure of what the student has learned, a measure of the student's overall knowledge on the subject matter. How can this be an accurate presentation of what a student has actually learned? So over the years, educators have come to make the realization that their traditional grading system used is an outdated system that comes with heavy burdens and the lack of efficiency on the learning process. Many teachers in the United States still use a non-meaningful grading approach that does not provide an opportunity to allow their students to think out of the box and fully learn the material. I believe there is a need for a shift away in all classrooms from the traditional grading system to a more meaningful, criteria-based grading system to better measure students' learning. Learning must also be made more meaningful for students as well. This literature review will discuss what is and the problems and inconsistencies with traditional grading, what is meaningful learning, and alternative grading methods that should be implemented in all modern classrooms. So the purpose of this study is to further explore and add to the research of the following 2 questions. How do the inconsistencies of traditional grading contribute to students' final grades in the classroom? And in what ways do different grading styles impact students' final grades? So here's where my literature review starts and where I really dig deep with my articles and books that I read and just really go at it with the research and the previous studies that were conducted and their results, and pretty much all leads up to how I conducted my survey in the long run, like what questions that I asked. So that was my literature review that I just skipped past. I'll go ahead and show you the podcast page. Again, this podcast was amazing. It's called How Accurate Are Your Grades by Jennifer Gonzalez. I highly recommend you guys check it out if this is a topic that interests you. She does a really great job explaining some important questions you can ask yourself while planning for instruction that can ultimately improve the integrity of traditional grades. So here I listed, she goes into depth about 6 important questions that you can ask yourself, and these are all statements taken from the podcast. So she asks basically like what learning does this task measure? Are you going to teach everything you will measure? What will quality work look like on a task? How much of the grade depends on outside resources? Again, just to save you guys time, I'm trying to not read all of this to you, but again, you can go ahead and pause it at any time and read as I'm scrolling. The 5th question is can all students do well on this task regardless of how they learn best? And 6, could this assignment be called practice instead? So again, highly recommend that podcast. It was amazing. I think it's about an hour long. And then I put the website here in case you guys want to go and check that out. Quote that I found that I think goes very well with my topic. Fair means that everyone gets what he or she needs in order to be successful. If we accept that premise, it would follow that rubrics and expectations would also have to be different to meet each student's needs. Unfortunately, I was unable to find who said this quote exactly, so I marked it as anonymous. So next we have the results and analysis portion, which I will go over with you guys. Again, my research questions were how do the inconsistencies of traditional grading contribute to students' final grades in the classroom, and in what ways do different grading styles impact students' final grades? So my participants, I had only 10 participants, 100% female. They were recruited from 2 San Bernardino County elementary schools. I used the snowball method in gathering participants as they were asked to share the survey with other educators at their particular school site. So participants taught in grades kindergarten, 1st, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. The majority of the participants had been teaching for 0 to 5 years and then 11 to 16 years. So out of the 10 participants, 3 were asked to be interviewed via WebEx, and they agreed. Their names will not be shared due to confidentiality protocol, but instead participants will be identified as interviewee 1 through 3. So for this survey, I used Google Forms. The survey consisted of 9 multiple choice questions and 4 free response questions. The questions asked about teachers' experience in terms of years, the grade they teach, and their gender just for data collection. Teachers were also asked if they grade on non-achievement factors such as late work, attendance, behavior, and if they offer test retakes after they've been given feedback. They were also asked to share personal experiences on unfair grading in their K-12 schooling, if they had any stories. I also asked what they consider to be unfair by having a coded characteristic chart on unfair factors with an opinion to select other. Lastly, teachers were asked to share what unfair grading is used at their school, and if any other selections on what they consider unfair grading characteristics are used in their actual personal classrooms. So my findings, again, this research had 10 participants that responded to the Google Forms survey that was sent out using the snowball method. Participants, again, taught in kindergarten, 1st, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And these are the percentages. So the majority of participants had been teaching for 0 to 5 years, followed by 16 plus years, and then 11 to 15 years. And here you can see the percentages. So traditional grading includes grading on non-achievement factors such as the ones listed below. Many teachers grade on more than one, with behavior being the most common, followed by late work and homework, attendance, and then college and career readiness skills. One teacher does not grade on any, while one says that they grade on tests and assignments. However, I do not consider tests and assignments to be non-achievement factors. I think that shows a student's knowledge in the classroom. So the purpose of this question, the one below, was to see if teachers right here are offering feedback on tests that students may have not done well on or failed, and then given a second chance to retake it for a higher grade. I think offering feedback to students is important because this allows students to review their mistakes, see what they're doing wrong, and then understand how they can fix it. So it was found that 80% of the participants offer test retakes after they've given their students feedback, while 20% do not. So then being graded on non-achievement factors are part of traditional grading. So teachers were asked if they believe that any of the non-achievement factors listed in one of the previous questions shows a student's knowledge in the classroom. 60% believe that those non-achievement factors do not show a student's knowledge, while 40% do not. So this data supports that teachers have different opinions on these non-achievement factors presenting a student's knowledge, which is where the inconsistencies start to come into play. So here we have that 60% and that 40%. So the next question is the first free response. What do you consider to be unfair grading? I will leave this here so you guys can pause. I had a mix of responses that they considered to be unfair grading. It was really interesting to read them all, so I'll leave them here. You can pause. The second free response was, have you experienced any unfair grading? If so, do you recall what type? Answers can be seen on the interview highlights, which I will get to in a minute. And again, that was from 3 participants who want to keep their identities hidden. The remaining 7 participants could not recall or did not experience any unfair grading in their K-12 schooling. This question was asked, the one right here, to see if participants were aware of their unfair grading factors that were personally named if they were being used in their own schools. 60% of participants are unsure, and then I had 10% saying likely but unsure, 20% say yes, and then 10% say no. So only 2 schools were used in this research project. So this data supports that teachers are truly not aware if their colleagues are using unfair grading systems in the classroom. So teachers need to be aware if they are using what they believe are unfair grading factors in their own classrooms. 80% say that they do not, while 20% say that they do. The third free response question was, if yes, which ones do you use? I only had 2 responses. One was saying if the student is perpetually absent, they don't make any assignments up, they have to put a 1. They can't put NA. And then the second was some people may consider homework completion an unfair grading practice. She didn't specifically say that she uses the homework completion as a grading practice, so this question I feel like I could have maybe given them a drop list of things to select. But yeah, I didn't really get much out of this third free response. So then this question right here, do you include the ones you use in your students' final grades? The findings indicate that 80% of participants do not, 10% yes, and 10 saying if it's only absolutely necessary. So this data supports that some teachers may include non-achievement factors or unfair grading in their students' final grades. This, however, is not an accurate presentation of their students' true knowledge in the classroom. So we have 10% saying yes, and 10% saying only if it's absolutely necessary. The 13th and final question on the survey was, why do you include them in your students' final grades? I only had 3 responses. Again, for time purposes, I can leave this here for you guys to pause to read this section. My discussion portion, basically in analyzing the responses to the grading survey, it is clear that teachers do grade on non-achievement factors such as homework, attendance, behavior, late work, and then college and career readiness skills. It is also clear that some teachers offer feedback on tests to their students and allow them to retake them, while others do not. So some teachers believe that these non-achievement factors actually show a student's knowledge in the classroom, while others do not believe that these factors represent that. So what the data collected shows is that teachers really do have different opinions about what should be graded and what should be included in students' final grades. The inconsistencies of the traditional grading method on non-achievement factors negatively contributes to students' final grades in the classroom. When one teacher grades on, another might not, which means a student could have had a better grade outcome in another class with a different teacher. So this is how different grading styles impact students' final grades and will continue to impact them in harmful ways if some sort of consistency for all teachers to follow is not established in our modern day classrooms. In conclusion, the topic of the traditional grading in modern education system is important because positive modifications have not been made for many centuries. So students are being graded on non-achievement factors that ultimately determine a grade that is supposed to reflect their proficiency and knowledge in subject matters. These non-achievement factors, again, include late work, attendance, behavior, participation, and homework. I do not believe that traditional grading and including these factors does justice to accurately present students' knowledge. This type of grading system is not the measure of what the student has learned, a measure of the student's overall knowledge on the subject matter. Educators are now realizing this, and a change needs to be done statewide in order to make grades a more meaningful and accurate presentation of what the future leaders of this world really know. So all of that was just, my project in its entirety. It took a lot to put together, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. I know I skipped the literature review, but it's a lot. So I just basically gave you the rundown on my results and analysis portion. Okay, so my interview highlights, I did do 3 interviews via WebEx. It was a pleasure doing these interviews with those ladies. Again, I had to keep their identities hidden because they asked me to do so. But basically, asked them the survey questions. And then I asked, have you experienced any unfair grading in your K through 12 years of schooling? If so, do you recall what type? Interviewee 1 said, yes, in high school I dropped out of honors math because of one horrible Algebra 2 teacher who gave me a D grade. When given another teacher who had more patience and cared about checking for understanding, I had the highest grade in the class. So that is what interviewee number 1 recalls. Interview number 2, I had a teacher who insisted I adapt to them rather than the teacher adapting to their student, me. So that was interviewee 2's experience. And then interview 3, she went into depth about her daughter's schooling. So she said, not my particular schooling, but my daughter's. She was in 10th grade. She had a difficult time being responsible with homework. She was a gifted student in honors classes. She felt that homework was a waste of time. She scored 100% on almost every test and class assignment, but the teacher weighed homework as 50% of their grade. Needless to say, she got an F in the class. No poor work notice or phone call was ever made to me. I saw her test with 100%. I had no clue she wasn't doing the homework because the teacher never informed me. When I got a report card, I immediately asked for a conference. In the conference, the teacher said, she needs to learn a lesson. That was not the teacher's job to teach her a lesson by giving her an F. The teacher's job was to inform me, the parent. What it did was ruin any chance of scholarship or admittance to a top school. You can tell I'm still furious about this episode. They did change her grade to a D, but that is all that they did. Grading practices like this ruin many students' future educational opportunities. So interviewee 3 was very passionate about this question, and we talked quite a bit about this teacher who gave her daughter an F and then changes to a D and whatnot. So yeah, those were the 3 interview questions. Or highlights, I should say. And then here I have my works cited page. Again, if you guys want to stop and pause and check out any of these articles, here they are for you. Personal favorite of mine reading was, where is it? Oh, The Classroom Chef, Sharpening Your Lessons, Season Your Classes, Make Math Meaningful. That book is amazing. I highly recommend it for anybody trying to be a teacher to read this book, because it really brings to light how you can make the classroom fun and how you can season your class and just make not only math. I know it says make math meaningful in the title, but just any subject. Very good book. And yeah. So that is my presentation as a whole. I'm sorry this video was so long, but I wrote a lot and I wanted to make sure that I went over what I needed to go over with you guys. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm very proud of this project. And yeah, thank you guys so much.